Cava has been on the commission for 6 years and describes herself as a community activist. She has the support of progressives and various unions. I started by asking her what she would have done different if she was mayor in charge of handling the response to this pandemic.
It was clear to me, I was reading up on what the CDC was recommending, that we needed to have massive testing, we needed to have very robust contact tracing, and then we needed places for people to isolate if they could not safely isolate at home. So I started calling for all of these things, and it took 2 months for us to get really the extent of testing that we need. And of course, now we're so backlogged that the tests are almost useless in a lot of cases. The contact tracing is just a small fraction of what we need. And the isolation, okay, thank you, we're moving it forward, but we haven't really done the job that we need to do to make sure people know that's available, and then we're gonna have to scale it up.
Did we reopen too soon?
Yeah, because the mayor was focused on the technical aspects of how you stop the virus from jumping from one person to the other, without making sure that we had the public health component. You know, these things have to go together. We need to, of course, do the distancing and the masking and the constant disinfection. But if we do not have testing, tracing, and isolation in place, we can't tamp down whenever there is somebody that comes up positive. So it was really half the solution, and that meant that it was too soon. And of course, you know, then we had to back off, and we've got these businesses that did everything they were told to do. They followed the rules to the T. They've expended huge energy and resources to get it right. And unfortunately, we're taking 2 steps back.
Obviously, yourself, Xavier Suarez, Esteban Bovo are all sitting county commissioners. So I guess the question is, are you really just sort of on the sidelines on this, or why couldn't we get more done through the commission, through, for instance, leadership that you might have provided? Were we just at the mercy of Carlos Jimenez?
Well, you know, it does really show what a strong mayor can do, because in this case, he really took charge. The commission was not meeting, remember, because we weren't going out in public and certainly not holding public meetings until the state even gave us permission to do the virtual meetings. So he was just calling all the shots. And from there on, it was the commission being told after the fact what was being done instead of being consulted in advance or looking for input on a plan. Now, gradually over time, the commission has asserted itself more. Again, I've been very busy with my letters, with my memos, with my conversations with the media. I've been very busy giving instructions what needs to be done. And I have to say that in many instances, the mayor did get around to doing some of the things I said, but always after the fact.
As things stand right now, would you order, you know, another shutdown?
Look, if I had been mayor, I would have used those strong mayor powers to convene all the city mayors right up front, all the health organizations right up front. We would have had the conversation, we would have come to agreement, we would have all been on the same page. We wouldn't have had this misinformation where people thought they had license to go out and start partying in some cases, and we wouldn't be in the position that we are in today. So I can really just tell you with hindsight that we would not be in this position. We would not have opened too soon. We might have delayed a little bit to open, making sure we had the public health protections in place. And you know, the state, of course, wanted to be in charge of it, but the state was doing nothing. And I was calling upon the mayor to take charge and take care of our residents, our citizens. And, you know, really, I think it's inexcusable. I think it's inexcusable that the governor...
But I want to say right now, today, if you were the mayor today, if you would assume powers today, would you shut things down again in Miami-Dade County?
Yeah, so, but again, if I were mayor, we wouldn't be in this position because we wouldn't have opened prematurely. We would have in place all the safeguards. So, you know, that kind of conjecture is very difficult to say.
The situation that we're in, what I'm trying to find out is, you know the landscape as it sits right now. Should the county shut down today?
You know, yeah, I think that the message is not clearly out, all the protections and all the precautions that need to be in place right now. And as mayor right now, what I would be doing is ramping up contact tracing, testing, and isolation.
Let's move on to some other subjects that obviously there's a lot of issues in this mayor's race. You know, transportation, transit is one of those issues. As mayor, what would you be doing? And I guess I'm curious about your opinion of the Kendall Expressway, whether or not you're supportive of that project or not. And you know, Alex Pinellas has laid out plans as to, you know, building rail north, building rail south, potentially proposing it for east and west. Just give me your overview as to where you stand on transit right now.
Yes. Well, I am a transit advocate. I've recognized from the beginning that traffic will only be solved with quality transit. We don't have it. As commissioner, I have fought hard for the replacement of the bus fleet, for the electrification of the bus fleet, for the last mile solutions, for circulators, not just in the cities, but outside, and the Better Bus Project, which we have a plan. It's been developed and we need to move forward with it because it will make our bus system much more reliable, much more frequent. More people will be able to depend upon it. So we have a lot of things that are coming down the pike, as well as the 6 corridors that were prioritized in the SMART plan, with 2 of them really underway. We've got the 836 express bus that has saved a huge amount of time coming from Dolphin Mall downtown with the lanes that were striped right before, you know, just as MDX was shutting down. We got those, and we did get the $100 million grant for the bus rapid transit on the South Corridor. Now, I voted against bus rapid transit. I voted for bringing the rail, the 1-seat ride, the continuation, because it was demonstrated by the studies to so enhance the number of people that would use it. It would really have been a game changer. But the mayor came in, he said, no, we can't do it anymore. We need that money for other corridors, and he shut the whole thing down. Wouldn't even consider going part way to Cutler Bay to the Southland Mall, which would have been a great solution, and bus from there. So extremely, extremely frustrating how these decisions have been made. For Alex Pinellas to say that he's going to dump those plans and start all over is another lie. You know, those dollars are not committed at the federal level. We could be considered for that. We wouldn't be rated as high. But, you know, this plan is underway. Rail would be another 8 years. So yes, I stood for rail. And what I've done is I've tried to make sure that we got gold standard BRT, which wasn't in the original, so I got that. And also to make sure that when we have the ridership that justifies it, that these platforms, these stations will be convertible for rail. So we're building for a future with a rail extension.
During the Kendall Expressway, crossing over the UDB into the Everglades, what's your position on that?
Yeah, so I never supported this Kendall Parkway. Again, this was another bait and switch from Mayor Jimenez, who was all about transit. And then, unfortunately, he became the chair of the Miami-Dade Expressway Authority, and he had access to those funds. And he thought, okay, we'll tell the people in Kendall that we'll solve their problems with this toll road extension. But in actual fact, we had the information at the time of the decision. This was driven by the mayor. We knew that it would not really save time. 3 minutes was what they were talking about overall. We knew that it would use a huge amount of money that could have otherwise been used for transit, which had been agreed to. And we also know that it was an environmental hazard, because we're talking about lands that are set aside for future Everglades restoration across a very vulnerable ecosystem. And with just the intention, I'm sure, because many developers spoke to me about this, that it would open up the West for more development. And hopefully this road will never be built, because it won't help anybody, and it will waste money, and it will encourage development, and that money should be invested in our transit system.
Let's take a step back and talk about money invested in the transit system, because I know one of the things that, for instance, Alex Pinellas has hit on you and others regarding this. He advocated for the half-penny sales tax. He says that the ultimate problem with the half-penny sales tax is that the money that was being accrued for projects like rail ended up being raided by commissioners such as yourself to help fill budget gaps. That while that may have been necessary in 2008 when you had the recession, that you've returned to it every year since, and you continue to use, and he cites you specifically, continues to use the half-penny sales tax money to plug budget holes in other parts of the budget.
Right. So this started with the half-penny lie, and we need to be super clear about that, because he is seeking to dodge that responsibility. This was a program that was going to cost a penny. When the penny failed, they rolled it over to a half penny. They never changed the programs. So the same promises for a full penny, now we've got a half penny. You know, do the math. It does not add up. Now, there was a recession. This is before I came on the commission. The Citizens Independent Trust that oversees the funds gave the county permission to use some of those dollars for operation. That's because the county has never made a substantial commitment to transit. Transit should not be based on the fare box. Transit is a infrastructure issue. We need it for everyone's well-being. I came on in 2014 to the commission, and I have been pushing since the beginning to unroll what they call the unification, unwind the unification. And finally, this is the first year that it is fully unwound, but last year as well, I've been pushing for it every year. And I tried even to make it permanent, and my colleagues rebuffed me. They said, okay, in this year's budget, but you know, we don't have a commitment on the record from the commission to not go ahead and rate it in the future.
But just to be clear, you did vote for budgets over during your time as commissioner that included rating into that fund and using those funds to plug budget gaps.
Yeah, so what happened was that it needed to go backwards. You couldn't stop all of a sudden running the transit system.
When we come back, County Commissioner Esteban Bovo.